Hello viewers, well it's been a while since I was last on the channel, a bit of a timeout. I'm not back properly yet as I used to be, but I saw the new trailers for Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown recently, and I thought I've got to do some content, I've got to do some talking. I've been online, been fighting the internet warriors online and thinking, you know, I need to put a video out. I need to talk a bit about this game, answer a few questions, give you a few bits of my feedback along the way, and hopefully answer a few questions in what has been a sea of silence for the last few months. I know lots of people are looking forward to the release date on the game. When's it coming? When are we going to get to play it? And it's causing deep frustration among people. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's take a look at the latest trailer. So, bit of off-road, wonderful views. Look at those mountains you can drive to in the distance. You can go there. You can drive down those roads at high speed. You can explore. We've got wonderfully lush, detailed environments, fantastic looking foliage. This is something Kiloton have always been strong at. I'm enjoying the imperfections in the road there, the bumps and lumps. Tricky tracks to drive along. I mean, some of these are roads and some of them are actually walking paths that you can drive down as well. So they're very narrow, very tricky, treacherous, fall off the edge, certain death for your car. The car details are looking great again, considering the open world environment, considering the size of the development team and the budget compared to other games out there. The game has no right to look this good at the moment. I don't think, seeing where they came from with WRC at Kiloton developing their own technology, you know, I immediately could see the passion of the development team and how much passion they are putting into Test Drive, how much they love Test Drive. And that's why when I see people criticising it's not a Test Drive game, it's rather frustrating, because you know it's a full Test Drive game with everything in there from Test Drive. But in the modern day and age, to build a game of that complexity compared to what it was 15 years ago is almost impossible. There's very few companies that can do it. So to say, right, we're going to do this and we're going to build something for the fans, it needs the fans to support it. And so far they're doing a great job. I've seen stuff behind the scenes, but every time we see new builds here, we're seeing more detail, improved textures, imperfections in the environment. It's really nice. And just the cruising vibe on this trailer just has a vibe about it, and that's what I like as well. Is Test Drive isn't about hardcore racing, it's a vibe. You just cruise, you go with your friends, you enjoy it. Well, let's meet each other at this location, let's just cruise through the forest and explore. There's so many things to explore on this island. There's so much depth to it. You know, I see a lot of people comparing the size of the island to other games and saying a bigger island is better. It's quite strange. You know, Fuel years ago had a massive island, but it was massive desert, nothing there. There seems to be this strange comparisons that for a game to be good, it needs 500 cars and a load of open desert to drive around for half an hour with nothing there. And that's going to be the difference with this game. Is a car is something that you earn. It is something precious. It is something you bond with. You might want to upgrade that car or buy a new car and then upgrade that one. Whatever your journey is, you'll find that, and you'll see it's a really different vibe to Test Drive to other racing games. You know, when you're playing, say something like Forza Horizon is a good example. You'll play a car, 3 cars a week, 10 cars a week, whatever you're playing, and they're throwaway. There's no real connection to that car. Do a few races, crash a bit, do what you want to do, move on to the next one. And because you have such sort of rich handling, detail, exploration, you live a life with this car, you optimize its performance to win your races. Sometimes there's something rewarding about getting performance out of a car that's not good enough. You know, you know that little bit more performance is there, helps you win those races. And then when it comes to moving to the next car, you're like, damn, good times with that car. That was a great car, sounds good, runs well. And then you move on to whatever you're upgrading to. But you don't forget, because they've all got their own personality to them. So there's something really nice about Test Drive. And of course here we're seeing the off-road, and we're seeing some of the screenshots as well. All the screenshots, again, lush environments, detailed off-road. You're seeing the tyres, the suspension systems, raising your car. all the cars can have different types of setups added to them, so it's going to be quite unusual. I've seen a Ferrari rallying before. Obviously you've seen Porsches rallying, but I've seen a Ferrari rallying as well. It looks odd. Dare I say, it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great seeing a Ferrari in rally spec with the extra high suspension, but it works, you know. So if that's your thing and you want to raise up a car, if you think you're going to drive into the bushes though with lowrider, you're not going to get anywhere. It's as simple as that. So don't think you're going to just drive off-road in a non-off-road vehicle and power through like you would in Forza Horizon. Some of these new screenshots, the tiles on the wall, I love the detail on this particular screenshot. I've got to add the imperfections in the environment, the detail in the environment. Again, when you think of, this is one of hundreds of streets in Hong Kong, of all the different areas that are there, and look how much detail there is with real-time lighting, with real-time weather. I mean, I don't know if that reflection's ray tracing or not, but it'll have ray tracing and all that stuff, the good stuff. Especially if you have a powerful PC and you can render all of that, it's going to look amazing. So it's coming along. The graphics are looking good. The environment's coming along. You've seen how it's improved since the showcase last year. There has been a lot of noise about lack of particle effects online. Obviously, they're going to bring that in later, but these effects are not essential to gameplay. I will add that. These effects, if they're going to slow down frame rate, you have to make a balance between, do we want a smooth frame rate or do we want particle effects and lighting effects and all the rest of it. I've seen it over the last few years. If you gave me the choice between 4K 30 and 1080p 60, I'd take 1080p 60 every time. I'm just somebody who likes a bit of frame rate. If you're saying to me, lose a few particle effects and you get a bit more frame rate, I'll go for the frame rate. It's always been a challenge with particle effects, one of those things. But obviously we will see them in the final game. Probably for PC users, my guess is you'll be able to turn them on if you have a powerful card, turn them off if you want a bit more performance, one of those things. So I can understand it, though. I've seen this before. I remember about 10 years ago when I was seeing MotoGP 2014, I think it was, on the PS4 for the first time. It was a massive upgrade in graphics. And one of the complaints was the shadow under the biker's armpit flickered. And you just thought, wow, here we are looking at the best MotoGP game we've ever seen. And you've got that little detail. And that's kind of where some gamers are these days. But in the main, most people are just going to enjoy it for what it is. And I'm really glad to see that the developers have been open on their blog. Not many developers are open about small details like that. In fact, a lot of them would have made up probably run it on a powerful PC and shown dust effects and giving you more unrealistic representation. Having said that, all the gameplay you're seeing here, this isn't a pre-rendered trailer. This is all gameplay, literally gameplay. They've recorded gameplay and then added replay shots of that gameplay afterwards using the in-game engine. But everything you're seeing there is the game. You will drive this island. You will drive these exact roads. You will discover stuff and do stuff. And there's lots to see and do on the island. There's masses of roads on the island, masses to explore. I remember when I first played it and thinking, oh, I just want to see what's down that road or what's down that road. And a good example is, and I'm going back a bit now, but when Formula One was first shown on the PlayStation, I remember driving around Monaco and stopping sometimes and crashing into barriers to thinking, what's down that road and what's down that road? And when I eventually visited Monaco, I remember walking down all these side streets and saying, what's down here or what's down there? Loving it, loving the exploration. Now with Hong Kong, it's the same thing. I'm thinking, what's past that rock? What's round that corner? That's what I want to see and enjoy with the exploration. So there's all of that to look forward to. The game is getting bashed quite hard by some people at the moment, and I think quite unreasonably. And I've picked up on some comments recently where I felt that the game's been unfairly attacked. And there's a couple of subjects, really. I think one is the single-player mode, and one is the offline aspects. Well, the single-player aspects, or however it works for players who want to do stuff on their own, hasn't been fully revealed yet. More of that later. But if we were just to use our, extrapolate what we've seen so far, obviously there's going to be some form of time trials. There's going to be some form of story, I'm assuming. There's going to be cruising on your own, exploration, discover stuff, take photos, whatever small challenges there are. There's going to be lots of things. Paint your car, all kinds of odd things you can do. So there's lots that people can do on all racing games that are online. That doesn't necessarily mean racing all the time. And the racing itself is not stressful in the same way as, say, Gran Turismo or Forza Motorsport. You know, in Gran Turismo 7, if you touch another opponent, you take them out by accident, or they take you out, it's stress, it's pressure, it's rage. And where that comes from is the ranking system. You know, it's important with the ranking, being in good servers. It means something to the esport players, or just bragging rights. But a lot of that doesn't necessarily matter so much on Test Drive. It's enjoying the moment, enjoying the drive, enjoying the race. It works well, and it works well. That's fun, and that's something we'll reveal on later videos at a later date when you'll see it. And no doubt many of you will play it on playtests as well. Just see how enjoyable it is, and how much you will enjoy it when you play the game. And I say this as somebody who's played lots of racing games. I'm saying this to you now. You know, I've enjoyed what I've played, and I've seen that there's still a lot to see and do. So I think from the single player aspect, there's going to be things to do, and I think that will grow over time, because it isn't a game that's just going to be released and then the developers forget about it. It's going to be a game that will build and new modes. One of the things that's really important to these developers is the feedback that you've given them. Give them positive feedback, you know, give them feedback on what you'd like to see in the game. And when you give developers feedback, consider the fact that it could take 6 months, 9 months, a year to incorporate what you say. So, for example, on the game itself, this takes me on to release date for a moment. There's a lot of frustration about the release date, but then the developers said to you, we want your feedback, and they've taken your feedback and they've incorporated that into the game to make it feel like a test drive game, to make sure it's all in there. So when you say this feature isn't in there and I would like to see it, well, then let's add that. And how long will it take? Well, it will take 6 months. Then it's a 6-month delay. And then you say, well, we want certain levels of optimization. Dust, we want dust. Should we delay the game for another 6 months for dust? No, let's release the game and improve that later. You know, that's what I'm talking about. You have to find a balance. And I think people just don't realize when they say, I want this feature, I want this feature, I want this feature. It takes time to add those features, but they're doing the best they can for you to make the best test drive game they can. For me personally, I've seen games delayed over the years, and I understand when you really want to play how frustrating it is waiting for that game, especially when developers said something was coming and then it doesn't happen. And the developers can't tell you why it's delayed. They can't tell you, but all they can tell you is that the delays are for the greater good, to make the game good. Because if they release the game in an unfinished or broken state, no one's going to play it anymore. It's going to be dead. The servers are going to die day one. What's the point in that? There's literally no point to releasing the game in that way. We saw what happened to Forza Motorsport last year. To another extent, we saw what happened to EA's WRC. You just can't release a game if it's not finished. If you're going to rush it out the door and it's not finished, the majority of your sales come on the first week of release. You're going to hurt your game long term. Now, as it happens, those two companies have legacy fan bases. They have fans who will play them, whatever the quality of those games. They will play them and they will stick to them and they will dedicate them and they will tell everybody those games are really good. But Test Drive doesn't have that fan base in the same way. It's a sequel to a game that came out, 13 years ago now. I mean, hell, we're going to have people playing this game that probably weren't even born when the original game came out. So it's got to find a new following. And that's why it requires the Test Drive fans. Give these guys a bit of support. It's the original developer. He knows what went into Test Drive and he's trying to bring that to a modern age. I can see it's all there. So it's getting that support for them as well. The next thing is always online. Now, this is where I've had some rather heated debates with people online about always online at the moment. Firstly, always online. People say to me, don't you care? I do care about it. I care about always online. I don't think it's a great practice in terms of the way some of the industry has used and abused it. I don't think Test Drive uses it in the same way. I don't think it's a case that should be focused upon or singled out. I think when I noticed online, It was on Xbox Live Arcade, and I bought a load of Xbox Live Arcade games when the Xbox 360 was released. A few weeks later, I was offline. I couldn't play any of my games. None of these games required an online connection. They were retro arcade games. It was frustrating. It was the future. I think when you're looking at people now, they're using Spotify, they're using Xbox Game Pass and saying, oh, well, it's rental. I'm just renting these games. I don't care. Yeah, you're killing physical retail. That's what happens when everybody buys into these services. So everybody's buying into something that's online right now, and it's an industry issue. And consumers in the main are moving digital. That's where they've gone. And digital means there's going to be control, there's going to be online, there's going to be piracy. I mean, the PC market was dead years ago. Steam saved the PC market. Now, Steam goes under tomorrow. How many of you are going to lose all your PC games permanently? I'm not saying it's ever going to happen, but how many of you would? But without Steam, hell, there may not have even been a PC market. I mean, it was really in a bad way thanks to piracy, cheating, all the rest of it years ago. Cheating is an issue. So they've targeted cheating as an issue. This game is an online game. It's an online community game. And it's going to be about working with people and building communities. I'm going to talk about that on a later video because it's important that people understand how to become part of a community, get involved with it, and get the best out of the game. This is a game best played shared. It was the same with the previous test drive games. Yes, they had offline modes. Yes, they were a different era of game. It was a different time. It was a different place. But this game was always ahead of its time, as were, I would actually say, Project Gotham Racing and Forza Motorsport in terms of online integration. Pushing online integration, and that's a good thing. When it works well. I think the main thing that fans want to know is what happens to all that content at the end of its life. Is there going to be more in the way of single player modes? These are questions that are still outstanding. These are questions the developers haven't even answered yet. The game's not finished. It's not out yet. Let's give it a bit of time. Let's see what they have in store. The funny thing is we're always talking about the end of a game before we're talking about the beginning of a game. And this is where we are in the industry these days. But do remember, a lot of the people attacking the game aren't attacking the game because they care about it being offline. They're attacking it because they're part of a pack. They're part of a group. In some cases, they're crew fans that are annoyed and they're attacking Test Drive. As I've pointed out, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Because it's a Ubisoft game. You're angry at Ubisoft. And instead of attacking Ubisoft, you're attacking Ubisoft's competitor. You're attacking competitors with these games companies. Now, if you're annoyed at the crew, talk to Ubisoft. If you're annoyed at some Forza game, talk to them. I think the problem is right now is the way the pack moves. Now, some people might disagree with me and they immediately say, oh, no, I'm here just because of the online element. And this takes me back to another moment. Now, I always find this deeply frustrating. Years ago, when Grid 2 came out, there was... what was there in Grid 2? There was that was it, the 5%. We are the 5%. So the 5% of cockpit cam players. And We Are the 5% was a campaign where they didn't have cockpit in Grid 2, and they basically destroyed the game, destroyed the Grid brand. Grid Autosport came out. It was a fun game. It includes some cockpits, but it didn't do very well. It got killed off by that campaign. A few years later, Need for Speed came out. Online only, Need for Speed, no cockpit cams, no steering wheel compatibility, none of that stuff. And where were the 5%? Where were they? Gone. It was a meaningless campaign. So where you saw the value and the virtue in that campaign, when it came to another game, oh no, it's fine now. It's fine now. So what does your campaign even matter? And this is why when I see pylons onto games. So that hurt that game. The Dirt Rally fans attacked Sebastian Loeb Rally quite significantly. You say, who benefits from that? Nobody really benefits, but they see this fanboy rivalry of a game that needs to be destroyed. Now, we might have got Sebastian Loeb Rally 2 if it had just released 6 months earlier before Dirt Rally. We would probably have had Sebastian Loeb Rally 2, and it could have been one of the best rally games of all time. Milestone were in a really good direction then. And where they could have gone with it now, with their modern graphics engines, which are much better, who knows? But it's dead. The fans killed it. So that's why when I see an attack like this, and I say, if you're an issue is with another games company, whatever the games company is, just discuss it with that games company. Take everything at their own. Got to give it a chance. You got to see where this game is going right now, because I am seeing the way the industry works and these attacks work on each different game. So for me as a content creator, I cover all racing games. For me, on a personal front, no. On a professional front, it doesn't matter to me what games do well and don't do well. It's not my problem. On a personal front, as a gamer, when I see good games that are snuffed out and then we get generic stuff pumped in the industry doing well, that's all you're going to have. You know, you're going to get Forza Horizon 6 and 7 and 8. And when you've been doing it as long as I have, and you see the same games regurgitated every year, you'll eventually see it as I see it and say, well, you're a boring old man. Maybe I am. No, I'm a gamer. I just love playing fun games. And I feel so frustrated when I see this fanboyism protection. And I think, no, because I attack a game, and I remember this last summer, people, you know, because I say, right, Forza, I said, you know, the last couple of years I've been saying Forza Motorsport isn't looking very good. It looks like there's problems in development. The game came out and I thought, see, but then I thought I could make a video saying I told you so and having a bash, and then thinking, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to see Turn 10 underperform with what they're doing. I don't want to see those fans frustrated. I want to see good Forza games. I want to see good rally games. I want to see good open world test drive games. We never had this years ago, and I hope that fans now see what's coming with test drive. You've got something very special here, and it's going to change the market. And if it does well, it will push forward the future of the crew. It will push forward the future of Forza Motorsport. They'll have to Horizon. They'll have to raise their games. They'll have to do new things, not just have shiny graphics, but have the handling, the gameplay, the style, the elements that make everything work. The elements that make a game a classic, the elements that make a game memorable. You know, you see what they're doing here, and it's coming along. And I've had my little rant now about it, but I wanted to talk to you about it. So just know there are people, sometimes other game companies, that will target this game and other games. I've seen it with different games released over the years, and the players are rounded up to attack. And people just follow. They follow what everyone else is doing. Let's bash this game. Just don't be a part of that. Support the games, play the games you enjoy, and let others play the game they want to enjoy. You know, if you don't like it, you don't like anything about it, fine. Let other people enjoy that game. Let them enjoy it. Go off and play what you want to play. I play hundreds of games, hundreds of retro games, new games, old games. I play everything, you know, and I can enjoy it all for what it is. And when people say, oh, you know, aren't you sort of emotionally involved in it? No, not really. I just play the game and enjoy them for myself, and that's it. And I see everything on that same level. So I didn't get, that's my personal enjoyment, is just seeing good games succeed. And over the years, I've seen so many great games with poor marketing. They just don't get the support they deserve. So all of that. Right, a couple of other things then. Firstly, the Racer trailer was released at Christmas, or just before Christmas, and for me, one of the best trailers out there. Love that trailer. It really shows the racer's journey from losing the race at the start, you know, upgrading and realizing, because this is how it is on test drive, by the way. You know, it's a type of game where you'll go into a race and you'll get battered, and then you'll realize, damn, I thought I could do it with perhaps less suspension or something like that. You need the right type of setup for your car. So then you'll set your car up, and then you'll be like, now I'm ready. Now I know what I'm doing. Let's take this guy on. So he gets his car tuned and set up. Then he goes for a little drive, gets used to it, feels like a badass. There was a moment there where people complained about the car going over the speed bumps. I will point out that they're unloaded wheels and loaded wheels, and we don't know what the suspension settings were. So people often think, oh, stiff racing suspension was on the car. No, not necessarily. There'll be different types of suspension systems, but there's still, when you've got heavily loaded wheels on a flat tarmac, the car's very light and you have a soft suspension, it just bobbles over those wheels. I can assure you right now, if you're going to be hitting some of these bumps with stiff racing suspension, it's not going to go well for you. And you'll have seen that even in that little clip from the showcase last year when I highlighted the way my Lamborghini was over the Central Divide. So yeah, what a trailer. He then comes back, does a bit of driving around, bit of drifting, goes through the car park, feels like a badass, comes out, and then he looks for the guy. There's a bit of hunting down the street. Now I'm looking for him. I want to find him. I want to do him. And then you find him, say, look, come on, pal. Give him a little flash. And then it's a race. He's behind him at the moment. Gets the Lamborghini still gets off the line well, but he knows he's keeping his powder dry. Sees that last corner, he gets ahead. He knows he's got to take that perfectly. That stress when you're leading the race and you know there's just a couple of corners to go, and then you're over the line. Yes, that relief, that elation. That's what I like from racing. That's what I enjoy. That's the energy that still comes to me after my whole life of enjoying motorsport and enjoying racing games. I don't have the money or the opportunity or the ability to fit in real racing cars. It's very uncomfortable for me when I've been in the cars and done the driving. But being able to live that world online and have other people enjoy it, explore the city, do the racing, I can't wait. Finally, just a word on release date. Again, I know everybody's been waiting for a long time for the release date. I see some of the stuff behind the scenes, and people say to me on the Discord chat, what's happening? And I say, well, look, the developers are working on incorporating the elements you've added and the optimization. And really, there's not much to tell. Sometimes you just get through several months of just improvements, bug testing, improvements. And if you said to me, right, should we release it rushed in a month? And then, no, as long as it takes. But it won't be too long now. As far as I'm aware, it was mentioned by the community head on the Discord chat that it's still slated for 2024. I see no reason why that should change when you look at the quality of the game. We don't know how old those builds are, by the way. I mean, when you see a trailer, it could be a month old, could be 2 months old. We don't know how old those builds are. So we know there's constant improvements. It's not long now. And Test Drive needs you, the gamer. It needs your support. And I just hope that you're all as passionate for it as I am. I will be running some coverage on the game. I'm running coverage now on games that I enjoy. It'll be slightly different to what it was in the past. I'll be running coverage on odd games from now and again. Maybe not everything like it used to be. I used to cover every single game, and that meant, quite frankly, I spend a lot of hours playing games that I really have no interest in whatsoever. But I just thought to myself these days, why not just play the games I enjoy and get a bit more enjoyment out of it for myself as well. So I've missed these chats. I hope you've missed these chats. A bit of Alan ranting about stuff. I'm not the biggest YouTuber in the world. I don't get that many views on this channel. There's a lot of YouTubers out there who get 100 times the views I get talking about racing games. But I still like to share my passion and my thoughts and my feedback, and maybe something I picked up on over the last 30 years working in video games. It's often challenging online. You're always attacked for your opinions when you give your opinions, but that's all par the course. I always appreciate debate from people, just not personal attacks. I always think once you get to a personal attack, the conversation is over. Talk about specifically if there's something wrong with a game. Specifically, what is it and how do we fix it? How do we make it better? If there's something I've said that's incorrect, specifically let me know what it is. Let's debate that and let's sort that out. I'm always learning. I don't know it all, but I've been in the industry a long time, and I hope I can share some of that knowledge with you, and I hope you've enjoyed this today. But that's it from me for now. As ever, more soon.